Is that Pak Doni?
Yeah, please.
Okay, all right then. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today in this special presentation of CHI. I hope you all doing great in this difficult time. And yeah, before we start, maybe there are some of you who come to this session to find out what is CHI. And that's why for start, maybe I will give you all a short overview about social innovation in health initiative, or CHI in short. So CHI itself is a network of institutions that utilize skill and resources to support activities to promote social innovation in health and to achieve the SDG, and of course to improve the life of communities in low and middle income countries. So currently, if I'm not mistaken, right now there are 130 countries that are under the CHI Global Hub, and that's including Indonesia. And yes, UGM, or specifically the Center for Tropical Medicine, has joined the CHI since 2020. And right now we are in the process of establishing the CHI Indonesian Hub with the support of CHI Philippine Hub. And we will start by identifying and mapping out the social innovation that occur in Indonesia. That's why for the next few months, we will share more about our activities. And of course, we are expecting you all participate on them. And without further ado, there's a Pak Doni that will greet us first and share his perspective about the CHI. Pak Doni, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know that I mean, so many new faces for especially for our colleagues from Philippines. Perhaps after this we would have a round of introduction, a very
Yeah,
short round of
okay.
introduction. But welcome everyone. Welcome to our first event for CHI. And me, especially as the coordinator for Center for Tropical Medicine, very happy that we joined the network, and hopefully we can get benefits, experience, and also contribute to the wealth of knowledge that already gathered within the network of CHI. And I think it's good that our first activity is try to get to know the ideas, the concept of CHI directly from the expert from Philippines, because Philippines is the coordinator for CHI globally, and hopefully people, I mean our colleagues in Center for Tropical Medicine can have a better understanding of what CHI is, what social innovation is. And I think because this is the thing that we also interested in developing in our centers and also in our countries, it would be a good start for us to know and to learn and to uh, kickstart the activities. So thank you very much, Noel, Meredith, and all the colleagues from Philippines, and welcome to our Indonesian CHI. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Doni, for the introduction. Moving along, it's now my pleasure to introduce our guest speakers and also for sure the College of CHI Philippine Hub. Yeah, just like Pak Doni said that there's a lot of new faces, but actually not really. There are uh, there are Sir Noel Huban and also Miss Meredith Del Pilar Dabardo, yang the one that will give us the main speaker of today. But besides that, there is a Miss Jana and there's Miss John and Jose Cruz and also yeah, I think that's all. Maybe we will have like a short introduction later, maybe after we have our discussion. But before we are focusing on the main speaker, I would like to introduce both of them, Sir Noel and also Miss Meredith. So both of them are currently called the CHI Philippine Hub. And right now, they will share some knowledge about social innovation and CHI itself. As a brief introduction, Sir Noel is a professor and faculty member of the University of the Philippines. He is a clinical epidemiologist who is currently undertaking social innovation research project. And about Miss Meredith de Pilar Roberto, she is a social development practitioner, and also she is a medical faculty member of the University of the Philippines. Well, without further ado, we will let Sir Noel Huban and also Miss Meredith to share with us about social innovation in health initiative. Sir Noel and Miss Meredith, the time is yours.
Thank you, Malida and Doni, for the warm welcome. First, let me share. Am I allowed to share the screen? Trying to share the screen, Malida. Can I do that?
Yes, please,
There.
Reza.
Okay.
Bisa dibantu?
For a while.
I think you are good to go. You can share with us. Just going.
Okay. Let me just for that. Okay.
Yep, it's perfect.
My screen up now. Okay.
Yes.
So first off, again, good evening and good day to everyone. And we bring warm greetings from the Philippines, where Noel and I are based, and we're both faculty.
Miss Meredith, I think you, okay. I think you need to unmute your voice first.
Okay,
Perfect.
so sorry. Am I good? Okay. So again, good evening, and we're happy to be here as part of Social Innovation in Health Initiative, CHI, and CHI Global Network. So we bring warm greetings from CHI Philippines as well as the CHI Global Network. I'm co-lead for CHI Secretariat, and Noel is also the lead for both the Secretariat and the CHI Philippines. So at the outset, let me also say our warm welcome to CHI Indonesia as they embark on an exciting journey as a CHI hub in the next couple of months and years, and also as they join the global network. Our task for this afternoon, we'll be sharing a little bit of it's an introduction to social innovation in health. So what is social innovation in health? And how do we identify some of the social innovations in health and possibly learn from them? We'll be sharing some examples. And one thing that's new also in the network is the launching of the CHI of Social Innovation in Health Monitoring and Evaluation Framework. I'll share a little bit about that. And then of course, Noel will be sharing the history of CHI Network and the CHI Hubs and how is it going right now. And of course, some of the things that we have been doing in the CHI Philippine Hub. So that's what's going to, how we will go about with the presentation this evening. Okay, before I go to the definition of social innovation, I think it's interesting to start with a question that you might have come across your minds when you think of social innovations. So why has social innovation moved center stage over the last decade? And I think how was it now relevant, especially during the pandemic? We've been hearing a lot of social innovations and community engagement nowadays. So in the last century, the world has witnessed many great medical advances. In fact, we have seen ambitious global health declarations, advancements in drugs and technologies. However, we still see that the reality of the health systems, I think for many of us who work with the community and the local health systems, we still feel that the services offered to millions of people, especially in low and middle income countries, remain far from the actual needs and expectation. In fact, according to WHO, there are 400 million people globally, mainly from LMICs, that includes the Philippines, that lack access to essential and primary healthcare services. And it's, of course, noteworthy to emphasize that beyond the products that has been invented, the projects or the programs that we see being developed to improve health, the house and the processes of the implementation remain expert driven. So we see this every time. So top down, and most of them fail to recognize community or frontline participation as key in feature of implementation. In fact, personally, I've seen how this has affected even the vaccination deployment that we've been talking about, and deployment of health service delivery during this time of pandemic. In other words, existing structures and policies have found it impossible to crack some of the most pressing issues of our time, so including the pandemic that we see now. So it made even social innovations more relevant at this time, especially that no one really know how to solve a very complex, or as one author said, a wicked problem such as COVID. So what then is social innovation in health if we are to define it? So first, innovation, from that phrase, innovation is actually a modern day word for anything and everything. It's very general. So if you put social innovation in it, what sets social innovation apart? So in CHI, we define innovation as a novel or a new solution. So this can be a process, this could be a process, a product, a practice, or even a market mechanism created and implemented by a range of actors. I think that needs to be emphasized. It's usually multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholder, and this is in response to a priority health need within a geographical context or within a community. So this solution should enable healthcare delivery to be more inclusive, affordable, and effective. So contrary to commercially focused innovation, the primary intended outcome of social innovations is actually enhanced quality of life, justice, and equity for all members of the society. So that's the basic premise of social innovation in health. So this diagram tells us that there are different types of social innovations in healthcare delivery. So as we've mentioned earlier, these can be either processes. So processes, for example, could be reorganized care pathways, making health access easier, especially for the marginalized population groups. It could also be products. And during this pandemic, we heard about many mobile phone applications. In fact, we were with the CHI India open call, and they have very fantastic examples of this social innovative products, which caters to improving access to health services, especially to marginalized population groups. It could also be market mechanisms. So for example, social finance instruments. And I think Noel will also be sharing some of what we have documented in the Philippine experience. So social innovations can also be roles and behavioral practices. So for example, they can be peer-to-peer services. The Philippines, late last year and early this year also had a youth open call, and we had a lot of examples. Looking at how do the youth perceive 2030? What do they see in those years? And they actually contributed a lot to social innovations. Many of them are in this category, the role and behavioral practices. And many of them actually centered on mental health issues, which is very interesting. Or social innovations can also be new paradigms and processes. So By nature, social innovations cut across organizational, disciplinary, and even sectoral boundaries, and it is often found in the how. So it's really on the how of implementation. And if you look at this diagram, right in the middle of that is the health need. So the people, they are in the center of all this innovation. Before we even think of what to do, we look at the health need of the people. And this is not one size fits all, it's context specific. So what works in the Philippines may not work in Africa. So that's why they need to tailor fit it according to the needs. And then we make sure that all these social innovations are inclusive, effective, and affordable, with the hope that the outcome of all this would be enhanced delivery of care, especially for diseases of poverty. And of course, it should be able to strengthen local health systems for sustainability. So the social innovation processes embodies a bottoms-up view and design and implementation that starts with the belief that communities and all members of the society are competent interpreters of their own lives, and they have the capacity to solve their own problems. That's why actually in many of our social innovation calls, we look at also, we have crowdsourcing. We look at co-created processes. So how did the social innovation come about? So that would be part of looking at and evaluating social innovations. So to understand it more, if we put this diagram into words, this is just actually what's in the table right now. So for there should be a stimulus. It's there's a health need that is being addressed. So we said that social innovation is a novel solution to a particular challenge. So it's person-centric, it's context-specific, and this is not only made by one person or one group, but this is the actors cuts across different sectors and disciplines. So individuals, organizations, institutions. So in other words, collaboration is really key in social innovations. And the outputs can take different forms or a combination of forms, as mentioned earlier. It could be processes, products, market mechanisms, role and behavior practices, and even new paradigms or policies. Because we want the outcomes to be more inclusive, effective, and affordable. And of course, we want to empower the community and change in social relationships. We want to share that power, the different groups in the community, and to institute change. And of course, the overall impact of social innovation in health, we always say that it should be able to improve the quality of life. It should be able to show justice and equity and positive social change. So the question now is, so how do CHI or how do the network identify this social innovation in health? So flashed in the screen right now is our processes. So the CHI network of partners regularly engage in a process to identify and study local community-based and citizen-led social innovations in health. So later, Noel will also be sharing the journey of CHI and how it started. But briefly, in 2015, the first round of identification and study occurred across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, resulting in identification of 150 eligible projects and the selection of 23 social innovations from 15 countries. So from 2017 to 2018, the second round of identification and study occurred in 3 countries and in 1 region, Malawi, Uganda, and the Philippines, Latin America, and the Caribbean. So this resulted in identification of 79 other eligible projects and the study of 15 social innovations in health. Most of these are already in the CHI website. You can check them also for details. So how do we identify? So the first step is actually to find and identify community-based and citizen-led social innovation. So in CHI, we adopted one process to do that. So in many of our social innovations, we do crowdsourcing. So crowdsourcing is getting contributions from citizens. So with the pandemic, with our experience, we did it digitally, so online. So Noel will also be sharing some examples later of how Philippines did some of the crowdsourcing. And then after we gathered contributions, so different contributions of social innovations from all over the country. And then we looked at these contributions, we review and select, and how does the selection process happen. To support the review and selection of social innovation in health, CHI appoints independent panels composed of local, so both local and international experts, to support the review of all the projects received through the crowdsourcing call and select projects that will qualify as social innovations. So the panel members review each nominated project against predefined criteria. I'll be sharing this criteria in a while. And then the third step, in order to understand the value, investigate the mechanisms of operation, and learn transferable lessons. So how do we replicate this in similarly situated countries? Now we do case study research. So from the social innovations that were selected, we do site visits and data collection. And these are now packaged as case study research. So the social innovation case inquiry was structured according to 4 units of analysis. So the context, the inventing actor, the solutions or the intervention, and of course, the implementing organization. So CHI researchers invest time to travel to each, of course, this was before the pandemic happened, travel to each selected social innovation to see implementation in action. So all the social innovations that were selected were actually validated to become case study research. And then, after that, step 4 would be the analysis of data to find insights. So all the collected data are now identified and recorded. Interviews are transcribed and translated. So aside from the contributions from the citizen, part of the validation is also doing key informant interviews and FGD, and these are transcribed. So the case framework guides the descriptive analysis, and findings are presented in a structured format. Okay. And then the last part would be promoting these innovations and disseminating and learning from this. So this is the final step in the CHI identification, and this is done in 3 ways. First, we share and promote online via the CHI website, or also the TDR WHO newsletter, and CHI also has a social media platform. So one is in Facebook. Second, we also host convenings where social innovators in health receive the opportunity to share their work. So before the pandemic happened, in the last quarter of 2019, the CHI Philippines Hub also hosted a learning exchange platform where we invited the social innovators to come to Manila and present their innovations. And so this is like a cross-pollination of learnings from different social innovators in different contexts and communities. And at the height of the pandemic in 2020, the CI Secretariat, of course, together with TDR, also hosted many online panel discussions. So just to disseminate and also promote these innovations. Okay, so what's the criteria? So as mentioned earlier, we use a set of criteria to identify social innovations. And if you want to read more about the details, these are also, there's a lot of materials also that's shared in the CHI website. You can also look up this there. So some of the criteria that we look at are the appropriateness of the solution to the need. So we said that first, the social innovation should address a particular need. So we look at the appropriateness of that solution to that need. Second is very important, the inclusiveness of that solution. So CHI is social innovations is also makes it a point to look at equity and access in health, especially for the most excluded or marginalized groups and populations. Also, part of the criteria is the scalability. the feasibility for the solution to be applied and replicated in other similarly situated communities or countries. And then, okay, as mentioned earlier, we look at participation and co-creation. So that's why community engagement is really very important, because it should be that the solution has the potential to affect change within the health or the social system. So really, for it to be sustained, the community needs to be engaged. So that's also sustainability. We also look at the degree of innovativeness. Okay, the solution presents a creative or unconventional or new approach as compared to the status quo. As one of the one of the speakers in one of the panel discussion that I've been to said, one good thing that happened during this pandemic is the normalization of new, or people are now looking at change or the newness as something that's already there. So it's because before it's difficult to introduce something new. So degree of innovativeness, of course, affordability is also very important, and system change. The solution has the potential to affect change within the health or social system, and of course the effectiveness. So does the solution has the potential to achieve a positive outcome in the health of the local population, or does it enhance the capacity of the local population? So these are the criteria that we look at to select social innovations in health. And the last part is, okay, after now selecting the social innovations and making them as research studies and sharing them, how do we now monitor and evaluate all this? And this is an interesting material that has recently been launched by CHI. So of course, this is with CHI and SESH on top of this with TDR. So you can also access this in the website if this has not been shared with you yet. Because the question always is, how do we make sure that these innovations are sustained and they're really in place? So the team came up with this monitoring and evaluation framework tool, which is composed of 7 phases. So you can check this out. The framework is designed for innovators, researchers, government leaders, community-based organization directors, implementers, implementation scientists, or even individuals to organize hackathons. Okay, hackathons, design-a-thons have been very popular during this pandemic. Crowdsourcing calls, people interested in social innovations, and other stakeholders. So the process of social innovation is inherently tied, as mentioned, to community engagement, and they demand close local partnership. So the framework actually focuses on monitoring and evaluating social innovations in health. So it tried to identify the core set of activities recommended to steadily progress towards achieving its impact. So the identification is just the beginning, but we want to journey with the social innovators and make sure that this would be creating impact. So how do we do that? This is part of the process. So, okay, both achieving impact in the short and long-term scenario. So in this tool, you'll see 7 phases, and there are suggestions for each phase. Okay, what useful set of tools when designing or implementing or evaluating social innovations in health would help individuals iteratively improve their social innovations. So just also a note that social innovations in health research both includes the implementation and the non-implementation type of research. So if you want to look at this material, it's now shared in the website. And there's also a third column here, which also suggests some of open source tools, which can help also the social innovators or the researcher or anyone who's just interested in social innovations monitoring and evaluation. So those are, and you'll find more in the CHI website. I think that's where my part ends, and I now give the floor to Noel to now share to the group what is CHI network and share some of the learnings that we have in CHI Philippines. Doc Noel.
Yeah. Social innovation, as you can see here, we had a guide on how to pronounce the acronym. It said "See High" because of what we wanted is for us to remember that we are seeing and aiming high for the innovation. So see and then high. So that's the way that we are trying to advocate for that one. So as mentioned by Meredith, it started as the realizing the healthcare delivery gap and the essential health services is not reaching lot of the population, and this was based on the World Bank study. And we see social innovation in health as an opportunity to address this need. So this is was established. The initial social innovation in health, the initiative was established in 2014, and it's a global network of partners that are interested in in advancing social innovation in health through research, because we know that we wanted to be more objective in generating the evidences, and they want also to build capacities. That's why they also partner with universities, being knowing that we in the universities or in the academic institutions and other partners are the one advocating for this one and are also equipped in research. And so that's the tactic that time. And in 2014, can you go back? These are the the partners that started with this one. So this is the London School of Hygiene and Medicine, the TDR, the Berta Center, the SIDE, and Oxford University. Next. So what are the values that CHI are expounding? They said that we are adopting a systems lens. So there's a way of looking at things, and we are not doing this alone. So we look for partners, and that partners is a common passion and vision with us, so are members of CHI. So our vision is really to address the gap. So and we try to be inclusive with all the partners that can join us. Next slide. So from 2014 to 2016, this is the time when they this is the first CHI hub, as you call the hub. This is the Berta Center and the Skull Center. They are the first partner before. This is when they did the first global call. And after that, in 2017, they tried to identify which are the countries that they have probably, I think, that they worked with in the past. And as for all of us, there are 6 of us who attended that meeting, and they explained to us the concept of CHI and asked the interest among us if we're willing to start up a CHI initiative in our institutions. These are the University of Malawi, the Makerere University in Uganda, the University of the Philippines in Manila, the SESH in China, the CDM, and it's a university in the Latin American region, and the Berta Center in Cape Town, South Africa. So from 2017 to 2019, these countries engaged in innovation calls. So from the global call before, now we have a more focused call in the different countries. So we did that during that period, and we identified also social innovation within our needs. And in 2020, we started with the expansion phase. So we said the goal now is to extend or expand the network. We looked for scouted for partners within the regions. So as you see here, the University of Malawi partnered with the University of Rwanda, University of Uganda partnered with Ghana, and the University in Nigeria, and the Philippines partnered with Indonesia, you are our partner, and also with India. And then for Honduras and for the Latin American region, they also, the one in in Colombia partnered with the university in Honduras. So that started the third phase of the growth of CI. This is the global distribution of the partners. So we have the CI implementing partners. These are the ones that organize the CI activities in their own countries. Or we also do activities with partnering with other hubs. Like, for example, we have been doing works with SESH and Latin American countries. Like, for example, we did the youth call with SESH. We also did projects for the community engagement package where we included most of the hubs for us. This is this is a call from WHO. So the hubs are now doing collaborative works in terms of research, and aside from being meaning resource speakers for organized workshops from the hubs. We also have the CI contributing partners. These are the green ones in this one. So you can see the Ahimsa Fund, the Fundación Meru, the UNH, and the UN University. So we are trying also to increase the number of partners, both in the country level and both in the organizational, meaning the funding partners as well. So this is the structure of the hub. So we are mainly research institution-based hub, and we partner with the academe, other members of the academe, the social innovators, the communities, the private sectors, the health implementers, and the government. And the strategy is that we have do research and we identify the capacities for research of our partners. We do storytelling and we try to raise awareness within the community and the country with what's the concept of social innovation. So we participate in fora and try to get slots, especially for if it's a national workshops or events. So we try also to convene people who are interested in doing social innovation research. What in the end is we wanted to institutionalize the concept of social innovations within the healthcare system. Like, for example, making it now, and as far as if it's something that can be owned by the government, the concept and the people, meaning the way they are promoting it and they are funding it, it's I think that's what we wanted for all of us, so that it doesn't become too dependent on external funding. The government is funding this social innovation initiatives call and giving funding support for the innovators. Okay, next slide. So we established the hub in the Philippines at the University of the Philippines, Manila. And as we say, that started the partnership with Gadjamada. Actually, I've been frequenting Gadjamada ever since the Masters in Clinical Epidemiology started with your university. So I know Pa Asdi, I know Gufron, I know Tias, and all the rest. So I've been in Yogyakarta probably 4 or 6 times already. So I am a local already. So I always go to Maliaboro, but it's so different right now. Oh my God. The Maliaboro I know is not the same right now. So in terms of focus area, as mentioned by Meredith, these are the things that we do. We identify social innovations through the crowdsourcing calls. We try to enhance the capacity of the researchers or the innovators to also have some research capacity in documenting and making it a point that there is data that goes with the innovation. So we doesn't stop for that one. we try and convince stakeholders so that we try to link them with funding agencies and support agencies. And if the LGU or the local government can help them in terms of sustainability, that's the best. And to institutionalize social innovation in health. What we have done so far in the country, as you can see here in the diagram, is this is the Philippine Council for Health Research and Development anniversary and the Philippine National Health Research System Week, which we participated in those activities. And now the Social Innovation in Health Call, the second one that we held last year, is no longer funded by us, but it's now being funded by the national government, by the Department of Science and Technology. So they already have part ownership of it. It is supported also by the Department of Health. One of the things that happened after the first call is the realization that this is something that they should support. So PCHRD, the Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, in one of they said we will support it. So the call last year is supported by them. For the Department of Health also, they're funding the last call and they give seed money for the innovators for the innovations and the innovators that we have identified so far. They have allotted at least I don't know if it's 2 or 4 million to support for these innovators. But they have to submit it as usual. They should have a research proposal or a project proposal with all the components of an objective and way of monitoring and what are the outcomes that should be monitored with this one. So this is the case study research framework as we as discussed by Medit earlier. We look at what is the challenge, who are the actors, what is the solution, and how is the implementation, how is it done, and how it affects the health system, what are the direct and indirect outcomes of the innovation. Next slide. And I think this is how these are the methodologies and the data sources that goes with how you analyze the context, the implementing and inventing actors, the solution and the organization. These are where your information and the methodologies that goes with it. Next slide. And the key insights from the 44 case studies that has been identified so far. Okay, now it's 44, but in the 2015 to the 2017, these are the key insights. The social innovations enhance government and public sector health delivery capacity, and it's a way of reimagining the role of the human resource for health. It prioritizes impact, agility, and sustainability. And some of the innovations as data-driven learning and decision-making. And the outcome extends beyond health. So when you have a healthy community, something is still outcomes that you can have after that one.
Sorry, can you unmute yourself? I think you need to unmute yourself, Colonel. Okay, thank you so much.
I'm not the one. Okay. These are the sample of the identified social innovations. This is the national health system. So you see, we try to document who is the implementer, where is it located, who is the organization, what is the challenge right now. This one is the telehealth system, a platform that aims to improve access to specialist care among patients in GIDA areas. Art Okay, is a part of it. I think it's part of is in the Zoom call right now. So and then this is this one is the Seal of Health Governance. This is the implementer is the municipality of Del Carmen. It's one of the island communities, and this is one is the challenge becomes that there's a training from the local health official, and he transposed the seal of health, seal of good governance in terms of the as a local executive to a seal of good health governance at the lower level, meaning at the barangay level. So that's how it is translated. This one is in the Inter-Island Health Boat Project in Zumaraga. As you all know, we have 7,100 something 10 islands, while this is small compared to the 7,700 plus islands of Indonesia. So the challenges are probably more in the island communities in your area. So this one is they have to bring the pregnant women to the mainland for them to deliver baby. But then the municipal health officer tried to think that why should I have to do that when I can do it here? Just have to come up with ways on how to do it. So what she did is to ask for a boat. But when you need a boat, you need a boatman. You need a boatman. You need also gas, and you need also the buy-in of your members in the healthcare system, meaning your midwife, because they're used to not doing it and trying the ways of they're used to bringing it into the mainland. So it's now bringing them into their health center. The health center before was not capacitated to do the delivery. So what she did was to come up with ways on how to do that. So meaning because as birthing facility, they were able to get some monies coming from the health insurance system. So that's it. This one is the HIV testing, the one done in China. It's how to do the messaging, because at least this is through crowdsourcing, meaning they come up with what are the message that would make people do the test. It's not something that when you say there's a test available in the center, people would come. It's you have to do your own, meaning how to influence them, how to make them come into that area. Next slide. This one is in India. This is a device that is used to monitor drug adherence. I think what this is that they have this box wherein the meds are there, and if once you get it, and then it ticks, and it registers that the pill are taken. It's monitoring adherence of patients to their treatment. So as I said, there are more case studies online. If you go to the CHI website, all the hubs have their own page on the website. So Jean will be the one in charge for that one. So Gajamada would have their own page on that website as part of the network. And this is one of the places to go in Manila. It's Kalangaman Island. It's near Meredith's place. So I know you have lots of islands also. I love Bali. But this one is, I haven't been there. So next time when opportunities for us to travel, so we'd probably have some meetings here and sub meetings in your area, so they can enjoy the beauty of the Philippines, and you can enjoy also climbing the ruins of Borobudur and Pamadan Temple. I think that's all I have.
Thank you so much.
Salamat malam, everybody.
Malam. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Meredith and Sir Noel. It was so insightful, and I would like to quote Miss Meredith's statement before this, like the society have the capacity to solve their own problem. I think that's the main point of like social innovation, that actually the society have their own strength to kind of like solving their own problem and everything. And right now, maybe we will go to the question and answer session. If there is anyone who has question, you may ask the speakers directly. Just raise your hand. Oh, me, Bu Ari, would you like to just like directly ask them about your question, or maybe you prefer me to read your question?
Yeah, thank you very much for excellent presentation. I learned so much about social innovation framework, and I would like to just some elaboration because maybe in some years ago there was also a framework called intervention mapping. So would you like to elaborate the difference between the social innovation framework and intervention mapping framework? Thank you.
Meredith?
Okay, thank you for that. That's an interesting question. In fact, CHI Philippines, we're doing a partnership with Maastricht University, and one of the workshops that we recently undergone is intervention mapping. So that's an interesting question because actually social innovations and intervention mapping, they have a lot of intersectionalities. In fact, they start with the same starting point, looking at scoping, looking at what's the challenge and what's the problem. So I think there's no hard and fast rules to say it's really different. I think in some of the strategies they may be, but basically their processes are more or less the same. The social innovations is it's more focused on, and it's, but although we're not saying that intervention mapping does not also look at that, but social innovations always highlights people-centeredness and equity, and making this all available to especially to marginalized people groups. And intervention mapping, when we did the training, we also went through the process, and it's also targeted to particular groups. So it's on a bigger framework, it's more or less the same. But I think for intervention mapping, it's also it highlights more on the interventions itself. So a particular specific intervention. In social innovations, it could be like Noel shared earlier. An example there is on the seal of local health governance. It's one of the social innovations that was featured. It has several interventions on that social innovation. So I'd like to look at it that way. In intervention mapping, it could be one intervention for a particular challenge, and that's very focused and very specific. But social innovations could be like an umbrella with several interventions, depending on how the community co-creates all this. So that's how I see both. So maybe Noel, you want to add more?
Yeah, I think having been working in health for the last how many years ago, there are several things that come up with from WHO. You have best practices, you have intervention mapping, you have all of those things. But bottom line, it's just finding solutions and looking at how it can be sustained, meaning whether the solution is an intervention or a technology or is a process or a program, and then how it should be sustained and how it can be monitored as that. So when I was at the start, when I was trying to meaning to discuss social innovations, I always equate it to that. What's the best practices before? I think this is also what social innovation is also all about. It's just that now we are also more on looking at it and why does it work? Looking at all the actors, what are the angles, so that people in other areas can study it and then can learn from it. So just looking at what makes them tick.
Yeah, and if I may also add, I think one of the highlights of social innovation is really its novelty, being novel, what's new, and what has not been done yet in the past. So that's the direction always of social innovations.
Can I have a follow-up questions for that?
Please do.
Thank you. I mean, it's always, no. When we talk about innovation and we talk about novelty, what will be the boundaries when about novelties? Is it something that is really new, which is and now it's even more difficult to do, or what will be within the boundaries of novelty? Can you give an example, Meredith?
That's an excellent question. So actually, there's no hard and fast rules to say where are the boundaries, because as we see, as we all know, our health challenges are dynamic and emerging, and they are even re-emerging. I think what we emphasize in social innovations is the more diverse the stakeholders come and they discuss and they come together to come up. So as Noel said earlier, this could be some of the best practices that worked before. But when you gather people together from different disciplines, different sectors, there might be something that would come out, something new. So this is the generative part of the social innovation. So there's no really a strict formula there, but when in our experience also, and looking at the social innovations that were featured and were made into case studies, that's usually the process. So when people come together and discuss things, and this is not a one time, so when they say, oh, this is social innovations and let's implement this, and most of the times they evolve, so we iterate. So when you test this, you pilot test this, and then you find out, oh, some of these are not working, then you might change this, or you hear feedback from the community, then you try to improve it, and it becomes actually another thing in a couple of months and in a couple of years. So in other words, these social innovations will continue to emerge. In fact, one of the interesting things that we did during the pandemic, so as mentioned earlier, we featured social innovations when CHI Philippines was established way back in 2017. But in 2019, 2020, we revisited some of them, and we say, okay, let's try to look at and follow up what happened to these social innovations during this time. Were they able to repackage themselves as social innovation should be? And interestingly, we actually featured some of them in a panel, and many of them were able to repackage their social innovation such that they were able to address even the challenges of this pandemic. A very good example of that is the seal of local health governance that Noel shared earlier in one of the island municipalities in the Philippines. In 2017, their focus was on sanitation and water and building toilets in the community and awarding the local villages, the local leaders who were able to sustain that. So the seal of local health governance was like an award. So it's like a bragging rights for the villages if you have that. It was popular because this was, there's a national award equivalent for this. So what the municipality did was to, bring this into the municipal and the village level. So when 2020 happened, when the pandemic happened in 2020, we revisited the social innovations and had a talk with the leaders and the municipal local chief executives. The interesting part was they were able to expand this. So now it's not only sanitation. They looked at telemedicine because of challenges in face-to-face consultation. They look at food security. They're now looking at health, enhancing the capacity building of their front lines and all this. So they were able to repackage it. So well, to answer that questions, there's really no hard and fast rule to where the novelty or should end and should start. In our experience, it continues to evolve and it continues to emerge. I think that's one of the exciting things of social innovations. Anything can happen.
Can I say that when we talk about novelty, is it something new that we do within our context? I mean, it might not be new in other contexts, but in our context, this is something new that we call it novelty.
Exactly. So that's a good point. So as we've seen in the framework earlier, it's context specific and people centric. So there might be innovation, social innovations for us that are not new for the Philippines, that may be new in other places or vice versa. So it depends still on the context. And I think yes, to me the best people to say that this is novel and this is working, this is something that is worth pursuing and effective, are the people who are in that challenge themselves. So that's a basic dictum in community engagement. Yeah,
Okay.
but thank you for that question. These are very interesting questions.
Thank you, Mary.
All right, then.
There's a question here, a long
Oh, yeah.
question. Yeah, I have to read. Yeah. Asking us among all the social innovations that CI has been involved, what's the one? Well, it's I think it's always the first ones that you identify that is closest to your heart. Like for example, the seal of health governance, because we're able to document it as well. So we saw how the local leaders were able to influence and come up with the seal of health governance, be a part of his work, and as well as inculcate it into the local leaders that we have to do something for health for your community for that one. And up to now, he has been a great speaker and advocate of that, of the innovations that he did, and the partnership with Willie Family Foundation in terms of the training and the Department of Health. So it's really that one involves training of first of the MHO, the municipal health officer, and then the local mayor or the local chief. So it's really meaning putting together the two, two major players in terms of deciding on in the health care of the community. So the last player will be the community as well. So that is if they're now working together, but that's the best partnership. I think that's it. The other one that I've learned also is that the innovation, once it is adapted, or the meaning the reason why it is there, like for example, the 660, the health insurance for the as a informal sector. These are the tuk-tuk drivers, because you have to come up with health insurance for the tuk-tuk drivers. They are not an organized group, but they have they have this they're organized in a way, in terms of meaning this is my route, this is these things, and but this one they decided that let's do something for our health insurance. It's hard for all of us to go to the health insurance office. So what they did was to come up with a system wherein they give money on a daily basis, 660 a day, and the officers of the organizations were the one giving the going to the office of the health insurance to give the share of everyone. So everyone gets covered by the national by the health insurance, and in times of emergencies of the tuk-tuk drivers, they were able to access it. But when then so that was I think the innovations that was done by the leaders at that time. But like for example, when health insurance becomes a universal health insurance and you don't have to do that thing, so the innovation may not be working right now, meaning it's not needed anymore. So an innovation may be meaning an innovation may be worthy at a certain point in time, but when the problem has been addressed, probably you have to the system that gets it. So you have to look for other innovations or other problems that might be within the community.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nora. So, I think because of the time, I will keep one more question. And I think Nadia have question, and it will be great if it will be like a last question for this session. Nadia, you want to like just ask your question directly, or you want me to like read your question?
Okay, thank you, Malida. So, firstly, I'm so impressed with the CHI initiative that focusing on health initiatives. So, for the tables from Meredith presentation about one last step in creating health initiative in Philippines, which is an impact. So, if we do social purposes for society, it might be the difficult part is seeing an impact from the society. Is it? But CHI used the framework to be identifying and evaluating. So my question is, how long to identify the innovation from the society that CHI's done before?
It's an excellent question, Nadia. And I think that's as an answer to that, the attempt of CHI to document all this is from the recently launched monitoring and evaluation framework. So you're correct. The last phase there is monitoring this system integration, and this is actually the impact phase. So there are suggestions there on how to do it. With the experience of CHI, well, at the CHI Philippines or the network, correct me if I'm wrong, Noel and Hannah and some here, we haven't gotten yet to that phase of evaluating the impact. But well, for discussions, we've been doing that in panel, but in documenting it as a research case, we haven't gotten there yet. But I think that's the long-term plan to document this. But just to tie up the answer also on our favorite social innovations, I resonate with Noel's answer on the seal of local governance, because actually their story, their journey is actually now creating the impact in the health system. We haven't packaged yet the case study as that yet, but their story is actually that already. They're now creating an impact. I know that because I'm part of the academic partner that trained these mayors and municipal health doctors way before they were able to have this social innovation. So we use the bridging leadership framework, which uses ownership, co-ownership, and co-creation. The social innovations actually come in that co-creation phase, and this is what the local leaders did. And so when they were able to successfully did the social innovations, this is where CHI came into the picture also to shine a light on that and connect them to higher institutions. I wasn't part of CHI yet at that time, and that's actually where we crossed pathways. So it's from the capacity building of local chief executives and leaders. They were able to translate that into, well, they started small in the villages, but now it's municipal wide, and they're actually already influencing the system. So if we go next into the documentation phase as researchers, then probably it's a long time. We started the training. This became a national program for local chief executives in 2013. And now we're seeing the fruits of that labor with this impact. So yes, I think that's the next direction of CHI.
What I can add is that, like, that's why we do case studies, and because we want to analyze what's happening. and we don't stop really on one case study. We need to monitor. If the innovation is now a standard, so that means you are successful now because it's now what's being done. It is adopted by this one. Hopefully, it's now looking at it not as an innovation, but as a routine practice of the government or of the area. At the start, it is an innovation because it's something new. But now, meaning it is adopted by the community, it's adopted by the government. Now it becomes the system. Now it's another way of monitoring it, looking at it. What we're really doing is that to highlight these innovations because at times they're not recognized. There's in far-flung areas, it's a small barrio or small village, it's happening and it's working and nobody knows it. Nobody has, because they said it's working for us. We don't have to tell everyone about it. So it takes some time. We in research or in the academy or the ones who are working in the community that is there to recognize them. Oh, this is something good. Other areas might learn from this, or other people, other communities can do the same. It's not prescriptive. It's just something that there are things that are working that is not being seen by the government, but it's not being seen by the ones who are deciding for our programs or for our health. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Noel and Miss Meredith. I'm pretty sure everyone agree that it was like a great sharing session about social innovation in health initiative. And before I close this discussion, I would like to share you guys the information about our next activities. So the one that Meredith just said about the step of like identifying social innovation, we would like to do it in Indonesia, and specifically maybe like in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we will start with like doing the webinars about social innovation, but in the Indonesia version, of course, and we will like ask guests from from the communities and researchers to like discuss, to share about why the social innovation. But then afterward, we will like to conduct crowdsourcing. So I think it will be like the most important, the most interesting part. And I'm pretty sure everyone here have their own project. They have their own like research and maybe engage with the communities at the grassroots level and feel like, oh, I know that there's a movement that I feel like it is a social innovation. Please ask them to join us. And it will be so interesting because there will be like a mentors, there will be a workshop, there will be a workshop, and also the participant will be assisted by mentors, expert, like the mentors itself will be like expert in their field. And by the end of this event, we would like to have the case studies that will be showcased through like CHI website or maybe like other channels. And of course, by the end of this big event, like a lot of like activities, that we would like to build a CHI Indonesian hub, and we'll like connect to each other later. Yep, I think that's all for now. Maybe should I close the event, or maybe like there's like final words from anyone, maybe like Meredith, Noel, or maybe Pak Doni for the last segment?
I think we give the time for Noel and Meredith as the expert.
For sure.
No, we're just learning. We're just learning as well. Meaning, and I never knew I would do this. I was just asking. I think of it as another research and a challenge. So, and it's been very productive years working with CDR, WHO in this work. And I think this is really something that we need to do and highlight, because some of those innovations are not visible at the radar of the policymakers, of the ministries of also having us to do it for them or making them visible, and they can learn from us. And also these people would, I think they appreciated that they are being recognized, because they don't know that they are doing something good and something great for their community. And it's really, I think, one of our advocacy is to do that for CI. And it's nice to any help that we can extend to you guys. Okay, and hopefully we'll have a chance to meet each other either in the Philippines or there in Jakarta or somewhere in India or in the WHO. Because as we all work for health. Medit?
Yeah, so I resonate with what Noel just said earlier. We are excited to partner with Indonesia, and we have a lot of similarities, but I'm sure we also have a lot of uniqueness. And I think that makes the partnership even more exciting. So thank you. And yes, any help that we can extend to CHI Indonesia, it's our privilege to and honor to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank
I
you,
love
Meredith.
and I love
No. Yeah.
mi goreng and nasi goreng.
Okay, so thank you very much, and I believe that many of our colleagues here, they already have their own projects and can be part and documented as a innovation that I think we can also learn and share with you. Thank you very much for very wonderful and fruitful evening, and see you again in the next activities of CHI in Indonesia.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
Tony said goodbye, everyone.
Hey,
Thank you
wait.
so much.
Can we have a picture taking?
Ah,
All right.
okay.
Documentation.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
So that
bad.
we can
Sorry.
show
I really have.
TDR
Yeah.
that we had
You're
this.
right. Anyone who would like to just
And
share their camera's faces right now, even though it's already evening, everyone
yeah.
is tired right now. Yep.
Yeah.
Reza,
Okay.
boleh minta tolong difotokan?
Yep.
Oke, boleh Mbak, tapi Mbak aja yang ngitung ya.
Okay. I will count from 3, 2, 1. Cheers, everyone. I think maybe one more time. That will be like, yeah, maybe it's just
Yeah.
one more time. And 3, 2, 1. Cheers.
With crazy faces.
All right then. Sure thing, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Okay,
everyone.
bye-bye.
Stay
Having a
Have
good
a
safe.
good
evening.
well.
Terima
Bye.
kasih.
Bye.
Nah.